Hi everyone. Hello. Today we have with us Aashi Agarwal. Aashi is currently pursuing her Bachelors of Science in Missouri S&T. That stands for Missouri University of Science and Technology. Today we're going to ask her a lot about how she came from India to do her bachelor's, what was her journey like, and much more. Hi Aashi. Thank you very much for being here with me today. How are you?
I'm good. Abhay, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So as far as I know, you came from India to do your bachelor's here. Though you did do something before that, right? Could you tell me how your journey was like? What was the kind of thing you did in India then when you before you came to America, and how did you enroll in the community college that you told about, and how did you come to roll after?
Okay, so this story is basically very interesting. So, to be honest, I never had any plans of doing bachelor's here in the States. So, I completed my, high schooling back in India, in Bhopal. I'm from Madhya Pradesh. And after that, actually, what happened was, like due to some reason, I was unable to get into NITs. And basically, the thing was that, I always wanted to do computer science from a really good university from where I can get more opportunities in terms of work and experience. So, since my elder sibling, he was already here in the United States, in St. Louis, Missouri. He was working since the last couple of years. So, my parents kind of, made up their mind to send me here. And that's how I came here. It was pretty sudden, to be honest. All this entire process, like, we never thought, like, my parents never had any plans of sending me here. Everything was very sudden after I completed my board exams, CBSE board exams back in India. And my IIT exam scores were out. Unfortunately, I didn't do well in those. So what happened was we had very less time, and my parents were not very interested in, letting me take a drop, basically a drop year, so that I can prepare again and perform again in IJ mains. It was very late to apply to any of the universities for bachelors in the States. So when my brother was exploring the options of, getting me into the school as a freshman, first year student here in bachelors is called a freshman student. So we came across this local 2 year institution called a community college. So basically, in the United States, we have this concept of a community college where it's basically a local school in every city where students study for the first 2 years. And after their interest grows and, like if they perform well, they can transfer their credits, basically those 2 year credits, to another institution and get a 4 year bachelor's degree. That's basically it. And what the concept of community college is that it is called an associate's degree. So, as in India, we have a certificate course, right? A
Yes.
certificate course is not a bachelor's course, but it's basically a small course of any particular degree, right?
True.
So that's how we have this concept of associate's degree over here in the States. So he came across this idea that, since I'm already late to apply to any of the 4 year institutes or 4 year university in the United States, what if I come here on the basis of, the community college student? So that's
Yeah.
how I started my degree. And yeah, after 2 years, like after completing my associates, I took transfer to a 4 year university, that is
Mhm.
Missouri University of Science and Technology, which is a 4 year degree, which is a 4 year degree college. And all my credits got transferred from community college back to here. Basically, my 4 year bachelor's degree is going to be from S&T only, but
Great.
I started my journey as a community college student.
Yeah, so you started out with your associate's degree from St. Louis Community College, and then you converted to a full time Bachelor's of Science degree at Missouri University of Science and Technology, right? That
Yes.
sounds great, actually. That's superb, you know. Now, this credits that you told about, can these be transferred to any university that they want to?
Yes, so basically, a community college student can take transfer to any of the universities in the United States or even in other countries. A lot
Oh,
of countries actually, have this concept. A transfer student can also be a student from a 4 year institute student going to another 4 year institute student. Basically, that is a
okay.
student who decides on changing their institute or, changing their
Mhm.
degree or something like that. So it is
Okay.
not specifically, like associated with community college, but you can take transfer from a university to a university as well.
Okay, great. Now, after your community college in St. Louis, why did you come to Missouri University? Why, what motivated you to come here?
So basically, I started researching and I started googling about all the options I might have after I completed my 2-year degree. And I applied to a lot of institutes actually. I applied on West Coast, East Coast, in Texas, even in Missouri.
Mhm.
The best part about Missouri S&T was that the first thing, doing a bachelor's degree here, bachelor's in science degree from the States, you can never get a scholarship being an international student. And Missouri S&T was the only institution which was providing me with a little bit of scholarship. It was not a lot.
Great.
It was like, I guess, not even 1/4 of the tuition fee, but at
Hmm.
least they were providing me with some support, in terms of,
Yes.
yeah, basically that was it. And I applied to all the universities. I applied to the universities which are very hard to get, and even like basic universities it is. I mean, it's basically the criteria by which I sorted was according to the best computer science placement rates, and
Hmm.
where I can get more diversity in terms of students and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, great. So how has your journey been since you came here? Because as you told me that you had you did 2 years in St. Louis. I'm assuming that when you came to Missouri S&T, it was still during the pandemic, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, that the shift was during the pandemic, even when all my, all the results were out and I was supposed to make a decision in terms of where I need to take a transfer. That was done in between the pandemics. So that was a big question, actually. I was pretty much interested to get into
Mhm.
Rutgers University, New Jersey, because
Mhm.
it has a really good, department of computer science. But
Right.
due to
That's
pandemic, it was pretty clear that, Rutgers is not going to open in campus. They are not going to return in person uh, till for the next 1.5 or 2 years, and that is
Mhm.
something when I'll be on the point where I have to graduate. So that was a big question, because if I'm paying so much amount of money, and if I am being an international student, it all makes sense if you get that experience, that environment, and that diverse environment of school. So S&T seemed to be a good option. And yeah, as I said, S&T was also providing me with some scholarship. So
that's great, and that's correct actually. Being a bachelor's of any degree actually, that's like the basic degree you get in a college, and you really need to experience that, being with people, sitting around, preparing for exams late at night. Maybe not that I support that, but yeah, that's something that I have done, and I know people have done around.
definitely.
So yeah, and that's like an experience on its own. And of course, if you took Missouri SMT, it's really actually good. So how was your journey like with the ship? Because I'm assuming that the pandemic was not a good time for anyone, and it must have been hard for you too. Could you please shed a light as to how the shift was for you when you came
So
to SMT?
basically, there is a lot of different in terms of how we are taught the material in community college versus at a 4-year institution. There is
Mhm.
a lot of difference in terms of, as I said, like the academic content, the environment, professors, and even, like, I would say studying at a community college was a lot easier than studying at an
Mhm.
institution, because it's, I mean, overall the classes are hard and material is hard. You have a lot of competition. When I was studying at the community college, we used to have, I think, minimum of 15 to a maximum of 25 students in a class, versus over here in S&T the minimum starts with 70 people up to 140
Oh,
in a class.
that's a big class.
So yes, that's a big class, and even like the content is really hard, and like overall experience, it's kind of, you have to work really hard. I mean, my
Mhm.
first 2 years I had all the prerequisite classes, like it was like physics, chemistry, and all the basic classes which is required by every engineer, by every
Yes.
bachelor's
Hmm.
degree.
Yeah.
Later on, when I came here at S&T, I had all the computer science core classes left to do,
Hmm.
which in itself is a little bit harder. And
Yeah,
like
it
my
is actually.
overall experience, my very first semester was totally virtual. It was very hard for me. I still remember the very first class I took was Intro to Computer Science, C++ programming. That was like the very basic class in computer science. And
Mhm.
after the first lecture I had with my professor, I was kind of feeling very scared because, like that shift from a sudden shift
Yeah,
from an in person class to a virtual class versus a shift from a very basic content to a very deep content,
exactly.
can
Yeah,
literally scare people and at the same time
exactly.
can give them more strength to do better.
I agree. I agree totally. I can only imagine how you must have felt because not only did you have to shift from a in person to a virtual, the kind of work that you were getting was getting in depth into computer science world, and that's
Exactly.
overwhelming for anyone. Even in the normal
Exactly.
circumstances. These were like, yeah.
Yes.
So I totally get it. I mean, I totally
Yeah.
understand. Could you also shed a light about the place? How is Rolla or how is Missouri as a place? Because I understand Missouri is in Midwest of the U.S.
So basically, like when in during the first 2 years when I was with my brother and his family here in the St. Louis, to be honest, I never liked St. Louis because wherever we used to go to either
Okay.
New York or California, it seemed like,
Mhm.
St. Louis is in the middle of nowhere. But to be honest,
Yeah.
when I came to Rolla, reality
Mhm.
hit. Reality hit
Okay.
bad because
Mhm.
Rolla is a college town. Like there
Yeah.
are pros and cons both to it, I would say.
Yeah.
There are
For sure.
really positive things about it because it's a college town. You don't have a lot of distractions over here.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
best part is that only people studying there, like the students studying there and the instructors, their family, those are the only people who live in that town. It's not like a big
Yes.
metro city. So that is
Yes.
a really, really big point, and which is actually a very positive factor about a student, is that you will not have a lot of distractions. But
Yes.
secondly, when you have to spend your time besides academics and anything, it's sometimes very hard for us to find some alternatives, or when you feel like escaping from studies and
Mhm.
hanging out with friends. It's kind of like you don't have much to do, but definitely you can
Exactly.
like rent a car and go anywhere around. The
Yeah.
nearest city is St. Louis, you can always go there, and other
Yeah.
places. So there are both positives and negatives to that place.
That's great, because I have always heard. I mean, I am in New York, as you know, right? I'm just completing a master's here, and I hear a lot about. I heard that all of these people that I know of in New York are like shifting to the West Coast. They're going to Seattle, California, San Francisco, and they say, it's much better there. It's much more accessible there. And New York is a great place to be, but I've never heard anything about the mid. That's the Midwest. That's
I
Missouri, right?
know.
And there is so much hype even outside the US, uh, because of the city, of course, New York City, and of course about the West Coast, Seattle and San Francisco. Although Seattle, San Francisco, all of these areas are just coming up because of the tech world that's there, right? So yeah, I do get it. I mean that's it's a different way of life, I should say, right? The
Exactly.
Midwest is a
Yes.
different lifestyle in the whole, right?
Lifestyle. Yeah.
Yes, yes.